So Paolo's the point guard.
All right, let's get to now. You're running out of time now for your segment because you want to talk about the Magic.
Because you want to talk about Anthony Simons.
No, I didn't want to talk about Anthony Simons. The 916 want to talk about Anthony Simons, and I want to talk about he's a chucker. So Kyle did all this research, okay, for a very random situation as the Thunder, if they don't win, a crazy pivot that they could make, which could affect the Kings in a very interesting way. All right, Kyle.
So let's play this out first, and then you can react to it. So
okay.
Oklahoma City loses in the conference finals to Minnesota. Maybe they run it back next year. Maybe they do what Boston did after losing in the conference finals to Miami and make that all-in 2-year window move while Chet and Jalen, while Shea is on a cheap deal, essentially. Shea has, after this year, 2 years and like $90 million left on his deal. Shea's going to make less than Zach LaVine over the next 2 seasons.
Yes.
So you can essentially cash in on that window for 2 years by trading for a superstar or a star, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I'm choosing to do the scenario where if Oklahoma City loses in the conference finals, Sam Presti could offer Scott Perry a Domantas Sabonis package that Scott Perry cannot refuse. Just cannot outright refuse.
I'm listening.
Now, a few things to note first here. One, Sabonis is if I were to pick a perfect teammate for Sabonis to play for in the entire league, it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Okay.
That is the number one player I would say is a perfect complement to Sabonis' game. Number two, Sam Presti drafted Domantas Sabonis back in 2016 when he was on the Oklahoma City Thunder for 1 season before he got traded for Paul George. So Sam Presti loves himself some Domantas Sabonis. And 3, Oklahoma City still has 29 draft picks over the next 7 years that they will not be able to use all of. So basically there's a situation where the Thunder trade for Domantas Sabonis without giving up any of their core 5 players, and they can keep all of those players under contract and below the second luxury tax threshold for 2 seasons, like Boston just did with Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. And that situation is where the Thunder get Sabonis, they give up Hartenstein, Isaiah Joe, which they're going to have to trade him no matter what. Right. Hartenstein, Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, who you just discovered yesterday is a baller.
Well, I already knew, but yes.
Yes. It'd be Hartenstein, Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, the 15th pick in this year's draft, 4 future first-round picks, and 5 seconds for Sabonis, which would give the Thunder Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Sabonis, Chet, Jalen Williams, Caruso, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins for the next 2 seasons. And even though they have to give Jalen and Chet extensions,
right,
they would still be under the second luxury tax with, I think it's like Topic, the other Jalen Williams, and like a draft pick to kind of round out the roster.
One thing I'll say just to confirm, so they'd have 2 years? They'd be able to do this for 2 years or 1? 2.
Because even though Jalen and Chet would get max extensions that would go into effect, because Shai is only at like $44 million, even with Jalen and Chet on maxes for 1 year, they could keep Shai, Jalen, Chet, Sabonis, Caruso, and Lou Dort and still be under the second apron, essentially.
Well, there's no conversation here. Scott Perry's doing that, right? There's no doubt in my mind. Am I crazy to say give me Topic and keep 1 first rounder? Is that insane?
Would you rather have Topic or the 15th pick in this year's draft? Topic was the 12th pick last year and had a torn ACL.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm not gonna go back. I'm not gonna try to haggle with you because first round picks are just the most valuable thing ever. So sorry, Toe Pitch. I really hope that you're not a generational because we're not going to take you. Yeah, you're doing that deal.
Salary filler, 5 firsts and 5 seconds.
Do you think the Thunder would give up all of that, though?
Isn't that the cost of doing business? I'm not saying all 5 picks are going to be lottery picks either. It'll be like some in the back half of the first round, some in the middle of the first
already
round.
One isn't.
Yeah, one's
right?
the 15th. I mean, that's basically a lottery pick.
4 more first rounders, 5 future second rounders.
So anyways, at the end of it all, the Kings would obviously be tearing it to the ground, but they would have Hartenstein instead of Sabonis and 22 draft picks over the next 7 seasons, 14 firsts and 8 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing that. There's no question.
You would do Sabonis for bad contracts and 5 first rounders.
Yes. Now, is that what ownership would want to do? I don't know. But actually, I kind of do know. But even someone who doesn't want to tear it down, I don't know how it gives you a path, it gives you a direction, and you say, okay, now we're lockstep together, Scott Perry, ownership, the organization, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, and the Thunder's case is like, why would the Thunder do this? You get Sabonis, an all-NBA center for Hartenstein, essentially.
Yeah. And you have too many picks, right? You have a ridiculous amount of treasures that you're not going to be able, you have to use them for something.
Or you could do what San Antonio did last year with Dillingham, which is like, we're just going to keep trading them backwards. We're like never going to use the picks. We're just going to keep kicking them down the road until you make this trade. Like, this is the trade they're kicking the picks down the road.
You have an embarrassment of riches. I think most people would say the Thunder have too many options. And because they have so many options, why would Domantas Sabonis be on the top of that list? I think your best argument is that we know Sam Presti seems to have an affinity for Domantas Sabonis. That's your best argument.
Well, and Sabonis makes a lot of sense with that team because you get rebounding, which is the whole reason why they signed Hartenstein.
Right. He gets that 4 in Chet. That is the 4 that everybody says that he needs to play with. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, and you get not just a playmaking guard with 3 levels of scoring ability, you get essentially the modern day Kobe Bryant as your number 1 to go along with Sabonis as the number 2.
I like it.
For which side?
For both.
Okay.
I like it more for the Kings than for the Thunder because the Thunder have so many choices. I don't know if they're going to say Sabonis is what we are missing. After they lose to the Timberwolves, are they going to come out of that saying, we need Domantas Sabonis? I don't know. We have to see, how it, in this world, I guess, that is what they would feel like they would need, which is why they would do the deal.
And they would have 2 years of this. They would have next year and the year after, and then either Chet's going to not be good enough and they'll move on from Chet, or they'll probably have to move on from Sabonis.
Wow. Look at Kyle digging deep. Let's continue that conversation. Would you do that deal? Would the Thunder do that deal? Also, as we talk about teams making decisions, am I tripping or could the Celtics be on the verge of blowing it up? Alan Stiles, Sactown Sports.